Hey, everybody. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jen Goddard, and I am a board certified doctor of natural health. And today I want to talk to you about our menstrual cycle. I talk to women all the time where maybe they've gone through early menopause for many different reasons, potentially, or they're taking some type of birth control and then they don't get their cycle because of the birth control, or maybe they don't get their cycle at all without any intervention and just haven't figured out a way to fix that. And so I wanted to share some interesting information about how our menstrual cycle helps us. There are studies out now that show the link between our menstrual cycle and cardiovascular disease. So our risk for cardiovascular disease goes up after we go through menopause or if we're not menstruating. So they've been able to dig a little bit deeper into that and give us some insight as to why that might be happening, because it's very important. So one of the things that they found is that we detoxify through our menstrual cycle. So I want to share a photo with you, and I've talked about this many times before, but not in relationship to what we're talking about today. So this is an image of our drainage pathways. And we have our primary drainage pathways and our secondary drainage pathways. So when our primary pathways are built up or overflowing or overwhelmed or not able to pull their weight, so to speak, then we get this overflow into our secondary pathways, and our reproductive organs as part of that. So it's good to keep that in mind when we're talking about some of this information, because it in part can help us to understand why we might be detoxifying through this pathway. Okay. So the first study I'm going to show, well, first let me back up a little bit and I'll talk about PFAS. So it's PFAS. So there's been lots of talk about this up here in Maine. They call it the forever chemicals, literally in pretty much everything that we touch. So we're getting a lot of this into our system, these forever chemicals. So there's lots of environmental laws to try and reduce PFAS, and anything that you can do to eliminate that is going to be super helpful in your life, just whether there's an environmental law or not, just reducing that as much as possible. Silly things that we don't even think about, like receipts from when we go to the store and we get a receipt, PFAS. And then when we touch it, those chemicals get into our skin. And then if we use hand sanitizer after that, it amplifies the absorption of the PFAS. So it's things like that we're just inundated, where our bodies are overwhelmed with it, right? So whatever we can do, like I said, to reduce that is great. But it gives us some insight into why our menstrual cycle is really important. Okay, if you're not menstruating and you should be menstruating, we need to fix that. If you're not menstruating because of a birth control, maybe investigate a different option so that it will allow you to menstruate. Trust me, I am a woman. I've been menstruating for a long time. It's not fun. It's not anything that anyone wakes up to and is like, yes, I want to menstruate today. I get it. However, in order for our body to function optimally and to be able to let go and release some of this harmful gunk that's really messing up the system, it's an important part of the process. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll share with you a study where they found that menstruation is a route by which women eliminate PFAS, partially explaining why men have higher PFAS levels than women in the same communities. Okay, fun fact. If you want to look up any of these studies, you can always search them on PubMed as well. So another one that just highlights how early menopause or women who have stopped their cycle with birth control. Okay, so early menopause is linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease mortality. So it's important to keep these things in mind, because sometimes we have, well, they gave me an option for a hysterectomy, so I took it. It's just a stress that we really want to make sure that we're exhausting all of our options before we go to something like that and we think, oh, it's no big deal. We're going to stop menstruating 10 years earlier than we should have. Well, that's 10 years of detoxifying through our menstrual cycle that we're not going to have. So we just want to make sure that we're really diligent in other ways and making sure that we're giving our body all of the opportunity that it needs to be able to reduce those things in our system. And for every person, that's going to look different. It'll, so you're going to say, well, Jen, well, what do I take? What do I do? It's different for everybody, what that looks like. So I would make sure that in the realm of cardiovascular disease specifically, something like a CIMT ultrasound. So it's Charlie, Indigo, Mary, Trot. Trying to think of what the T stands for when you're doing those letters. So CIMT ultrasound. So that's a great resource to help you stay on top of your cardiovascular health. It'll give you your cardiovascular age. It'll help you to understand your risk factors. Having a thermography scan is going to be helpful with identifying some of the risks that you might have, okay? Because it'll illuminate any areas that are super inflamed and that need some more attention. So these are some things, if maybe you're not having really any health symptoms, maybe you are having health symptoms, but these are some things that'll help you to identify some starting points or starting places that you can begin to work on some of this stuff, because it's important to address. And it's just dismissed so by gynecology, it's dismissed by our primary care physician as if it doesn't matter whether or not we have our menstrual cycle, but it matters. It matters greatly. It's a detox pathway. We want to make sure that we're continuing to have it when we're supposed to be having it. So if you need support with that, please let me know. And like I said, it looks different for everybody. I wish I could say, we'll just take XYZ product. It's going to present differently in everyone, and what that plan looks like is going to be different for you. So if you really want to be preventative and not wait until crap hits the fan, then it would be something that I would encourage you to start looking into and digging deeper into now, before it gets to that place where it's going to be much harder to manage. So like I said, if you're of menstruating age and you're not, please look into that. If it's because of a birth control option, maybe consider switching the birth control. If you have any other option besides hysterectomy or going into early menopause or starting that process early, we don't want to rush that cycle. We want to take advantage of of that as a cleansing process for as long as we possibly can. So I'd love to have you hear your input. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please make comments.